something that could give 11,000 shots in one day to be able to get ahead of polio. It was fascinating. I mean, so I think maybe that could be part of it too, is to bring those people to you rather than you having to try to find it in the middle of such a rigorous.
Sorry, we have a question here and a few questions, so let's move on to the next one.
So, it's also lunchtime now.
All right, well, right before lunch. My name is Terry Mandel, and I spent my career helping organizations figure out how to talk across departments. And after working in global health for many, many years and wanting to do more of that, I started working on a project called BioMedLink, which is actually a collaboration platform. Half of it collaboration, half of it is commerce platform for being able to solve many of the gaps, to address many of the gaps that people here have been talking about, which is how do you take all these great ideas and actually get them out to the world. Now, not every student team is going to be capable of doing commercialization, but maybe they came up with a fantastic idea that someone else can take to the next level. How do we bring in the poets, the anthropologists, you know, all of the stakeholders in the value chain? The experts are the users, and they're very, very rarely asked, number one, or given a channel for being able to easily contribute their expertise into the system. So I would be really honored to have contributions of ideas and energy and collaboration for this. This is a process innovation that is designed to help product innovation actually meet the needs of the underserved globally, and it would be really fantastic. I'm also giving a talk at 2:50, so if anybody wants to join that on hacking the how, which is really a big problem that all of us share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so any quick response?
You're apparently voting with your feet that this is more important than lunch. Bill Leedy, the Leedy Foundation, Juneau, Alaska. 2 points. You began with the word context. The context here in this humanitarian technology conference must remember that the context includes the entire biosphere, all the living world and the physical system that support it. The bacteria don't make it and the plankton don't, we don't either. So in as much as we are doing this to the least of us, we're doing it for our species. Secondly, I admire your conversation about systems engineering. Fortunately, my first job out of EE school was systems engineering, and I've been addicted to it ever since. The system for energy, for example, which is where I've spent my last 12 years co-authoring research papers about how are we going to run the world on renewables. First, we have to agree that that's humanity's mission. Otherwise, we get bogged down. How are we going to build some more transmission lines to get some more wind energy from point A to point B? Well, that's only a third of our energy supply. Until we humans, and with us engineers, I suppose, agree that our objective is nothing less than transforming the world's largest industry, energy, from 85% fossil to at least 85% renewable, we're going to be fiddling around at the margins. So systems engineering in the largest context, as you said, is extremely important. That should be a major focus of our deliberations. So I do have some materials I can share with you on that 12 years worth of work.
Thank you, Bill. I'm also a system engineer. So any other comments, questions? Tom or can we open one a few minutes to restart the video? If you are not okay, fine.
Hi.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rich Fletcher. I work I'm from the East Coast at MIT, and I've been working with students for about 20 years and do a lot of developing country stuff. I work at D-Lab and but my main comment is that there's no shortage of innovation. There's no shortage of student interest. There's tons of activity. There's hackathons almost every week. And there's also no shortage of support for starting your own company. I've done several companies myself. But something that we're pretty weak on is licensing. So doing a company takes a lot of, several years of effort. And something I'm purely talking from the MIT perspective, but I know Stanford handles this a little bit better, but I'm just curious to get your comments, is how can we find better partners to tap into ecosystems, because so many great ideas just die after the students graduate or after the hackathon is over. But how do we get that out and create like a marketplace so that you know the companies on the ground can find these ideas?
I'll just say that I'm a huge fan of open platform technologies, and I think there's ways to get reimbursement for businesses that we've seen, you know, through subscriptions and all kinds of other models with open platforms, so the licensing specifically isn't as much of an issue, and I'm kind of hoping everything will go that way, because I think it will really open the ground for innovation much wider and more globally. But this kind of speaks to something that we had talked about before, which is, you know, what can we do in different settings, and what's happening in settings that can't happen here because things are so restrictive here. And, you know, licensing is one thing, and in medicine, HIPAA laws are another thing, and it's very hard to do anything here in mobile information systems and health information systems here in the US. So we're learning an enormous amount and watching our partners abroad develop an incredible amount through use of wireless technology in health that we can't do here, that we can't even get, you know, people to help us with because it's so restrictive. So you know, to me, I think it's a big issue that you bring up is how do we, you know, sort of level the playing field in a way that allows, you know, that drive to innovate to still be there, and yet, you know, not too restricted to get things done.
I can add something. I totally agree. Open source is like a great way of actually helping people to use the software we develop, but we also donate code. So some customized solutions we actually donate for the social enterprise or local organization, and we go and we help to deploy, and we have a team of students that actually go over the process, help to train people to use and stuff like that. So basically the students own some of the software developed at Santa Clara University, depending on the situation, and they basically donate the code. So this is something that we actually have been working on.
Well, actually, this is a very important topic, especially as we look at scaling. We're actually working with the Entrepreneur Law Clinic or the High Tech Law Clinic in Santa Clara, and maybe we can take it offline and talk about it, but that's one of the really critical projects, and it's not just to do with code. If you're developing a vaccine transporter, you're developing, I mean, there are lots of things that have nothing to do with open source at all, and how do you really, and for example, we might work with a social enterprise in the field, that might be a for-profit, and then you worked on it, and we're just going through 2 cases like that right now, where we worked with them, and they're like, okay, now we're gonna take it to market, and we're gonna be profitable about it, and there's an investor in there. And you really want to scale this because it can help out. So how do you then work through this and make it available, maybe have the license and maybe license this out to the people, if they're for-profit one way or for non-profit another way. So we're going through some of those discussions and coming up with like business models, legal models for that. So we're very interested in talking to you for that.
Actually, I remember from Monday's plenary, one of the plenary speakers from Penn State U, I think his model is such that he doesn't file any patents, and they just license the technology to the companies. So that is another way. I think the advantage is that you can avoid the cost of filing the patents, which is actually quite expensive too. But I don't know, like, how feasible, like in practice, when somebody trying to do the same thing, and they don't pay you the license, then what would you do? Like, they probably won't get the all the expertise from you in helping to realize or implement the technology, but do you care about that?
Right. And I have a patent with Stanford, and I've been through that, and if you want to talk offline about, I don't think they've solved it by any stretch. They've gotten better because they've had to, but it's still pretty cumbersome.
Okay, yes,
questions?
we are done, I think, sorry.
Any other questions?